with the recent news regarding the exotic rotator playlist that we're going to be getting, I figured that I would speedrun one before that, a mission that hasn't been sunset from the game. It's called NODE.OVRD.AVALON, which obviously released with Lightfall, this is the only exotic style mission in the game at the minute of that caliber. I know there's exotic quests, but they don't count. So this is the only one in the game, so I figured that I would speedrun it. A hardcore version of it. Not the first sub 30-minute Triumph. I've already covered that. I've already covered Solo Flawless Legend and all that stuff. This was a solo speedrun of the mission. So the build that we used was Arc Hunter. Build 9 and 10, they are both identical. The only difference is that the boots and the class item are different. So the boots on build 10 have triple sturges and a Reaper mod on the class item. And then on build 9, it's Healthy Finisher and stacks on stacks. This is just how you can turn surges on and off by having two builds like this. We've got the exotic helmet on Assassin's Cowl, for obvious reasons. We're using Gavin Storm, right? It's the punch dodge build. All my artifact mods are spec'd out for Arc well. And basically, yeah, the weapon wise, right, we used a 1-2 punch shotgun, a Arc trace rifle, half of least resistance, and the exotic LMG Thunderlord, whilst also using at times Jellyhorn, and whilst also using at times half truths, which has eager edge on it, so just an eager edge sword. Not enhanced eager edge, just standard. So that's everything that we used. Like I said, this is a different style video. This isn't me showing you a walkthrough or babying you through content. This is a insight to what goes into solo speedrunning a mission or a activity or whatever it might be. So we've got eager edge on for the starting section just to speed it up. Obviously everything's built out for time, right, to get the fastest time possible. That's what the goal of this is. So I haven't got enhanced eager edge on. I can go and do that. I could go and craft a sword and do that, but it doesn't make any difference to me if I did. There will be no time gain if I used enhanced versus standard, because I'm not using the sword enough to justify it anyways. It's only really just for that start section, because there are two major exploit puzzle skips anyways. The jump and puzzles sections, there's two big skips for them, which you're going to see coming up anyhow. I switched to the exotic rocket Jellyhorn. Two reasons: because it's really good at ad clear, which that's what this next section is about, and it's used for the exploit, which you're going to see. That's why it's on. So to spawn the tower with the puzzles, we need to clear out the ads immediately as much as we can. Not all of them to trigger it. Like, look, there's still a Minotaur up the tower spawns, so it's just based on a percentage of the enemies, not every single enemy. So obviously we've got these puzzles to do, so there's 3 puzzles each time, and they get longer as it goes. Now there's RNG to the puzzles, because there's different combinations, but what I'm saying is this mission's really good to speedrun because there's an RNG element to it, because if you get a bad pattern over and over, your run's going to be slower, which might be annoying to some people, but a good speedrun should have a good element of RNG. They always do. If there was no RNG to a speedrun, then everybody's run would be the same time. Think about it. Also, there's other things that come into play, but every time we're shooting these ships, we're going invis in between while we're waiting for the ship, right? Now, if it's back to back the same shape, say it was 4 squares, 1 diamond, that would be a bad pattern to speedrun, because it would mean that you can only shoot 1 shape per rotation. Like, look at me there, I just shot square and pyramid because they were back to back. So ideally, it is possible, but the best rotation on all 6 puzzles would be diamond, square, diamond, square, diamond, square. But the odds of getting that in a run would be insane. You don't realise how much the odds of that. Just have a think about that. Over 6 puzzles with 4 or 5 different shape combinations free on the start to get diamond square, diamond square, diamond square. It just isn't going to happen, is it? So there's always going to be inconsistencies like that. So we overcommitted there, if you saw there, but we overcommitted to get that final puzzle done. That was a time save, but we also lost time kind of because we were slower at getting to puzzle 2 to go and look at it. But I was pleased I got puzzle 1 done, because there was a lot of ads up there flinching me, all that sort of stuff. So stuff like this can happen, but this is why I'm showcasing the run, because this is the sort of, this is how you need to start looking at your gameplay. You need to critique every single thing, right? What is the things that you could do better? If you get into speedrunning, you're naturally going to do that, aren't you? Because you're going to do a run and be like, I got 15 minutes. Whatever it might be, it doesn't have to be this particular mission, it could be anything. I got 15 minutes, next time I got 13 minutes. Well, why did I get a 2-minute saving? You watch the gameplay back to find out why. See, if you don't do the speedrun ever, like if you never do the speedrun and strats in D2, if you've never done them, it's now time to start if you're bored in the game. Because it's a whole world. It's a whole different world. And it will naturally improve your overall skill at the game if you try it. Even if you don't get as good as the next guy, it doesn't matter. It's about self-improvement. Can you self-improve over what you've done last? And I know the term speedrunning people don't like, but think about it. Speedrunners have basically took over D2. All the world's first raiders are basically the recent ones. They're all speedrun based. Why? Because speedrun players are the best players in the game. You've got GM players, you've got raid players, you've got Gambit players, PvP players, all that stuff. But the best players are speedrun players who do PvE. Because they naturally use the meta. They naturally know all the DPS rotations. And they're willing to improve daily. On a daily/weekly basis. Whereas most of you aren't willing to go the long distance. You just want an easy ride. You just want to shoot guns. And I know you do. Some of you just do want to do that, and that's fine. But if you're saying you're bored, then you can't say you're bored then. If you've made this game for 9-8 years, and you're telling me you're bored, but you've never speedrun ever in your life, then that's a you problem, not the game problem. Get into it. It's a fun thing. It's something that I've done in the past. And I will sprinkle these types of videos in here and there. But just focusing on what I'm doing right now, this is very particular. So where I'm shooting with Galley, it's doing damage to the enemies, right? But it actually spawns the second encounter in for us. My orb gets transferred to it, which means I skip the entire jumper puzzle, which is a huge time save. So that's the skip number 1. Huge skip. There's another huge skip coming after this as well for more time. On the dunk and the moats, you can't really speed up this section too much because there's a timer. You are dictated by the timer. Once the timer emits to 0, you need to be in the hole. But on the 8 dunk phase, for some reason, because of the glitch I just did, we have a 10-second time saving. Because look, it says 10 seconds until detonation. Why? It was just 20. So the hole is going to close at 10. All this means is that it's a 10-second saving. I don't know why it's like that, but I'll take a 10-second time saving. It doesn't happen though on the 10 dunk or the 12. It only happens on the 8. Very strange. It's just something that happens. So yeah, you can't really speedrun this encounter too much. What you can do though is increase DPS and speed up the boss. Because you meet the boss twice. You meet him halfway and at the end of the encounter. I've sought the speedrun strat for this to be using Parasite, because if you have triple surge, you hit him with that Parasite shot, it'll almost do. You'll get his health to the damage gate straight away, just about. Thing is, I didn't want to go overly too much, like stealing people's strats and stuff. I just wanted to do a solo speedrun with Ark during this season. And Thunderlord, because Thunderlord really excels in this mission, because it's doing 2 things really well. It's doing ad clear really well, and it's doing boss damage really well. This weapon, Thunderlord, has slowly come up to be like a 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 exotic. It was when it first launched with D2, it was a 10 out of 10 actually. It was actually crazy when it first launched. Then they nerfed it, and then it was like a 1 out of 10, but then they've slowly buffed it. Give it overload rounds. It reloads itself. It's literally one of the best guns in the game. It really is. So once we do damage, which we done damage with Gathering Storm plus Thunderlord, which we did have our surges, which melted him quicker. We need to melt down the harpies as quickly as possible to spawn in phase 2 of this encounter. The tower does not spawn in until most of the harpies are killed. Not every single harpy, but like 95%. That is the trigger. We then need to do our motes. We've just got 10 motes and 12. This is when I'm going in Viz, like on other runs, I'll be going in Viz and looking at my ammo and checking what heavy bricks I'm getting. This run was really good for me RNG wise for ammo. I'm full on heavy, which I didn't need to be full. All I really needed was 60 to 80 bullets plus super. So it didn't matter that I was full on heavy, but it would matter if I didn't have any heavy at all, because then the DPS would slow. It would mean that I would have to do punch dodge shotgun 1-2 punch on the Hydra, which I don't really want to do, because that would slow it down a little bit rather than just doing Thunderlord and Gathering Storm. It would be still slightly quicker at getting rid of the boss. We've still got one more phase, 12 dunks, 12 mods. It's a shame that you can't double dunk each phase. So say for example you have 20 mods. If you dunk 20 mods for the 12 phase, your 20 mods are consumed. You can't stockpile mods, which is actually, in my opinion, a bad thing, because it should reward a player for killing the ads quickly to be able to double dunk. So I should be able to dunk my 12, or say a 10, and then another 10 right away on the next phase. But that isn't a mechanic. Your mods are wiped. It's weird. But that's the end of that. Then we'll just get ready for DPS. I've got super, pulse nade, and full heavy. So I've got enough ammo just to quickly wipe them. And then after this, it's going to be the next main exploit. Because after this, obviously, as you generally do the mission, there's a jumping part, right? Where you have to jump past enemies and all that stuff. And there's traversal, which is cool. Like, if you've never done this mission, you should do all that stuff. But we're trying to solo speedrun it, so we're going to use one of the exploits, which this is how you do it. Which was found out ages ago, by the way. I just wasn't aware of it. So you run over here. You jump down below, and then you run through the Vex fluid. I'm on a hunter, so I'm not going to spend all my hunter jumps. I'm going to save one, just in case. And you just keep going down, and you hit this part right here. This then skips the entire jumping puzzle that we just would usually do. This saves so much time on the run. So you've got that time saving, you've got the first exploit time saving. We've been efficient on the tower phase, doing the puzzles. Now it's to be efficient on the boss. So for the boss, we're obviously going to put in a raid banner, which, fun fact, raid banners do not cost in this. So if you have, say, 100 raid banners, if you use a raid banner in this, it will not consume your raid banners. I don't know why. But this is another mini exploit. Obviously, when the boss walks out, he's shielded. But to stop that from happening, aggro the boss by running up to his legs and getting a pulse nade on him. This will make him vulnerable to DPS sooner. This will save you time, and it'll make it easier to DPS him. So we pulse naded, supered, a full mag of Thunderlord. We then swap over to build 9, which is risky, but it saves our time if we can do it. Because before we go through this part, we're on build 9, because build 9 is my healthy finisher build, which means I maintain triple surge. I can knock surges on and off with this build between build 9 and 10. So I've done that on purpose. It just means that there's no pressure with my surges. I don't need to look at that later on, because I can just turn them on later on. I've obviously got my 3 stacks, which that's all I need, is 3 stacks of armor charge. We want to clear out the 2 Rivens, because they will get in our way when we're trying to do the puzzle. So they're not a time save by skipping them. It's better to just kill them. I killed both Cyclopses as well. There's an argument to be made that you could probably skip one of them, or even both. It is possible. I just didn't bother to do that. One thing that I needed though was 1 heavy brick on this floor, which I did get. I need 200 ammo at least, because there's 2 phases of damage to do, and there's not long left on the video. So how the hell are we gonna do that much damage in that time? Well, I'll show you. So we're near a super. We shoot 4 shapes, and we leave the 5 shape up. We switch to build 10. We shoot our last shape while we're up here. This means DPS is easier. We use a pulse grenade. It's important that we do that because we're not going to use a super on phase 2. But we do want to kill him before firewall rebooting ends. That is a requirement. We're not going to get him in one mag. We're just not going to be able to do that. But that's where we'll get a reload. Send the boss away. We need to refresh our armor charge off one of the harpies. 1 or 2. Right, get a quick reload. Go on the final floor. Then we're set up for final floor, final stand. It means we don't need to hide. We just confront the boss entirely. So we lead with Thunderlord, do a Gathering Storm super. A pulse nade at some point. Wasn't the best placed, but it's there. And that's really just how to solo speedrunning. So that's just, I hope that's just giving you an insight into what goes into doing stuff like this. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.